The rising divide. How economic inequality and cost of living pressures are shaping the world. From the bustling streets of New York to the crowded markets of Nairobi, families around the world are feeling an increasingly familiar squeeze. Rising prices, stagnant wages, and an ever-growing concentration of wealth have created a pressure cooker of social, political, and economic tension. As the cost of living climbs, millions are finding it harder to meet basic needs like food, housing, and healthcare. Meanwhile, the wealthiest individuals and corporations continue to accumulate fortunes at record speeds. Economic inequality, once a quietly debated topic, has now become a global flashpoint. It's not just about money, it's about opportunity, security, and the trust people place in governments and institutions. The divide between the rich and the rest of the world is growing, and the consequences are far-reaching. Section 1. Understanding the global inequality landscape. Economic inequality exists both within countries and between countries. Within wealthy nations, the richest individuals are growing disproportionately richer compared to middle and lower-income households. In emerging economies, a small urban elite often enjoys most of the benefits of growth, leaving rural and informal sector populations struggling to keep up. Wealth concentration at the top. Recent studies show that the richest 1% of the global population now control more wealth than the bottom 50% combined. In the United States, the top 0.1% of households hold as much wealth as the bottom 90% of Americans. In China and India, inequality has been rising rapidly in urban centers even as overall GDP grows. Why does this matter? Wealth concentration affects access to education, healthcare, and political influence. It also influences how governments respond to crises, with policies often favoring those who already have the most resources. The wage inflation gap. While wealth at the top soars, wages for average workers have stagnated or barely kept pace with inflation. In countries like the UK, Germany, and Japan, real wages have remained almost flat over the past decade, while housing and energy costs have surged. This creates a double squeeze. People earn the same but pay more for essentials. Case in point. In Germany, households face rising heating bills due to energy crises, while wages remain largely unchanged. In Brazil, families are spending over half their income on basic food and rent. The effect is global. No continent has been untouched by rising costs. Section 2. What's driving the cost of living crisis? Several interlinked factors have converged to create unprecedented pressure on households worldwide. 1. Inflation and supply chain disruptions. Global inflation has surged to levels unseen in decades, fueled by supply chain disruptions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, rising energy prices, and geopolitical tensions such as the war in Ukraine. Shipping delays, rising commodity costs, and labor shortages have all contributed to higher prices for everyday goods. Visual example. A family in Kenya reports that staples like rice and cooking oil have doubled in price in just a year. Similar trends are seen in India, Mexico, and parts of Europe. 2. Wage stagnation. While living costs rise, wage growth has been slow or non-existent in many countries. Middle-class families face shrinking purchasing power, even as productivity rises. This disconnect has fueled frustration and protest movements worldwide. Statistic. In the US, adjusted for inflation, median household income has barely increased over the past 2 decades, while corporate profits have grown exponentially. 3. Housing costs and urbanization. Housing costs are skyrocketing in urban centers around the world. Cities attract jobs and opportunities, but housing supply often fails to keep pace with demand. In London, New York, Tokyo, and Mumbai, rent and property prices have outpaced income growth for years, creating generational barriers to homeownership. Human story. In Mumbai, young professionals are living with parents well into their 30s because rents have become unaffordable. In the US, even dual-income households struggle to afford urban housing, leading to longer commutes or forced relocation. 4. Energy and climate-related pressures. Rising energy costs, from electricity and gas to transportation fuel, are hitting households hard. Extreme weather, climate policies, and energy market volatility all contribute to the global cost of living crisis. Example: European countries faced a record surge in energy bills after the war in Ukraine disrupted gas supplies. Similar patterns are affecting energy-importing nations in Africa and Asia, making heating and electricity unaffordable for millions. Section 3. The human side of inequality. Numbers alone don't capture the lived reality of inequality. Personal stories highlight the everyday struggles that families face under rising living costs. Family in Brazil. Maria, a mother of 3 in São Paulo, spends over 60% of her monthly income on food, transportation, and rent. "We've had to cut back on nearly everything," she says. "Even small luxuries feel impossible. And yet, prices keep rising." Young professionals in Europe. In Germany and the UK, young adults face the dual pressure of student debt and rising living costs. Many are delaying marriage, buying homes, or even starting families because their financial reality feels unstable. Rural struggles in Africa and Asia. In Kenya and India, rural communities face high food costs and limited access to healthcare. For families dependent on farming or informal work, even small increases in prices can push households below the poverty line. Section 4. Political and social consequences. Economic inequality and rising living costs are not just financial challenges, they are catalysts for social and political unrest. Protests and political movements. From anti-austerity protests in Europe to labor strikes in Latin America, people are demanding fair wages and better social protections. Governments face growing pressure to respond, yet the challenge of balancing budgets with public demands is immense. Statistic. Global social unrest surged in 2022, with over 1,000 major protests recorded worldwide related to cost of living and inequality issues. Polarization and distrust. Economic inequality contributes to political polarization. Populist movements often capitalize on public anger over inequality, promising reforms or scapegoating elites. At the same time, trust in government and institutions declines, particularly when people feel left behind economically.